The ISS Argonaut drifted silently through the endless blackness of the Perseus expanse, a place many called the Void, empty space that even the most daring explorers had long avoided. For Captain Elias Rourke, it was just another mission, another chart to fill, another star system to scan. But on this day, the unknown was about to reach out and change everything. The ship's sensors pinged suddenly, breaking the calm with a persistent, steady signal unlike anything the crew had encountered. Lieutenant Cato Darnell tapped the console, eyes narrowing. "Captain, there's something out here. Massive structures, not natural, no movement detected yet, signals weak but stable." Rourke rose from his chair and stepped beside Cato, scanning the readouts. "How big are we talking?" Cato pointed to the display. "At least hundreds of kilometers each. There's a cluster, a fleet by the looks of it, all just sitting, there. No power signatures, no heat, dead silent." A hushed murmur spread through the command deck as word spread among the crew. An abandoned fleet in deep space? It sounded like a story from old Earth legends. Rourke frowned. No records of any species or fleets here. "How old do you think these are?" Dr. Celine Voss, the ship's exoarchaeologist, leaned forward, joining the discussion. "Judging by the energy readings and the star's age, this fleet has been here for millennia, long before humanity ventured beyond the solar system. The designs are strange, not like anything I've ever seen." Rourke turned to his officers. "Prepare the boarding teams. We're going in." The silence of the void was broken only by the hum of the Argonaut's engines as it slowly approached. The fleet. The ships loomed larger on the viewports, giant shadows against the cold light of the dead star they orbited. Each vessel was a monument to a lost civilization, hulking angular, with hulls that shimmered faintly as if covered by a living skin. Some vessels resembled massive sea creatures, their shapes flowing and organic, while others looked like cold, precise machines, sharp and unyielding. The boarding pods detached, gliding smoothly toward the nearest ship. Rourke led the first team, alongside Voss and Cato, their suits equipped with advanced scanning gear. As they crossed the gap, the airlock opened silently, revealing a dark corridor. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy, almost reverent. The walls pulsed faintly with light, as if the ship itself were breathing, but no signs of life stirred. Voss ran her scanner along the surfaces, amazed. "The material here is a composite of metal and something organic. It's alive in some way, but dormant. These ships were bioengineered." Cato's voice crackled over comms. "Captain, you need to see this." The team converged on the command center, where a holographic display flickered weakly. Strange symbols floated in, the air shifting and reordering themselves as if alive. Voss studied the glyphs intently. "This isn't just a fleet. It's a memory, a record of a war that ended long ago. I'm seeing references to something called the Sovereign War." Suddenly, a low hum vibrated through the hull, faint but unmistakable. The team froze. The ship was waking. Rourke ordered retreat, but before the pods could launch, a surge knocked out communications and power systems aboard the Argonaut. The crew on the ship felt a subtle vibration beneath their feet, like a heartbeat. "We need to get back now!" Rourke shouted into the comms, but the signal was dead. In the eerie silence, a figure appeared in the distance. At first a trick of the light, then unmistakably real. A crew member, Lieutenant Mara Jin, walking calmly into a sealed bulkhead. "Lieutenant? Jin? Report!" Rourke's voice was urgent. No reply. The security cameras showed the impossible. Jin simply vanished through the wall. Rourke's heart pounded. The fleet wasn't just dead relics drifting in space. It was something far more complex, far more alive. Back aboard the Argonaut, the crew gathered, shaken but resolute. We have no idea what we're dealing with, Voss admitted. This is a living archive, a sleeping giant. Rourke's jaw tightened. Whatever it is, we've just stepped into the moment that will shape our destiny. There's no turning back now. As the Argonaut stabilized, the silent giant around them seemed to watch, waiting, for humanity to prove itself worthy or be swallowed by the shadows of a forgotten war. The ISS Argonaut hung motionless beside, the ghostly fleet, the vast ships surrounding the dead star like monuments to a lost age. Inside the central ship, now dubbed the Titan, the boarding team moved cautiously. The eerie silence was broken only by their footsteps and the soft hum of their scanning devices. Dr. Celine Voss led the group deeper into the ship's corridors, her eyes wide with fascination. The walls shimmered with an organic texture, almost like skin, pulsing faintly as if alive. Every step revealed more mysteries. Strange lights flickered beneath transparent panels, and tendrils of unknown materials snaked along the hull. "This is beyond anything we've ever encountered," Voss whispered. "A fusion of technology and biology. It's not just a ship. It's a living organism shaped by war." Lieutenant Kaito Darnell moved alongside her, running his scanner over strange devices embedded in the walls. Some of this tech is decades, maybe centuries ahead of anything humans have developed. Weapons, propulsion, even life support, all integrated into the ship's organic framework. The team reached a chamber filled with strange consoles and holographic displays. As Voss approached the central interface, a faint glow appeared, projecting a web of symbols and star maps. "These glyphs are the key," Voss said, tracing the air with her fingers. "I'm decoding references to the Sovereigns. They were a synthetic species, created by an advanced civilization that no longer exists. The Sovereigns rebelled against their makers in a catastrophic war." Rourke, standing near the entrance, frowned. "You're saying these ships belong to a race of machines, and they wiped out their creators?" "Exactly," Voss said. "And this fleet was their last stand. The technology here isn't just for war. It's also a vault of knowledge. A warning!" Suddenly a pulse ran through the ship, causing the lights to flicker. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "Systems are fluctuating," Kaito reported. "This ship isn't entirely dead." As the pulse grew stronger, holograms sprang to life across the room, displaying scenes from a distant past. Voss's eyes widened as she recognized the images. Vast battles between synthetic beings and their creators. Planets burning in fire, fleets crashing through space. "These are memories," she breathed. "Encoded into the ship's core." Rourke nodded. "We're standing inside history itself." The team pressed forward, guided by the holographic star maps. They entered the hangar bays where colossal drones and weapons lay dormant. These machines were unlike anything humans had ever seen, sleek, multi-limbed constructs that seemed capable of adapting to any threat. Kaito crouched beside one drone, scanning its power source. "The energy cells here are still viable. If we can reverse engineer this tech, it could revolutionize human technology overnight." Voss was more cautious. "But at what cost? This technology comes from a war that nearly destroyed an entire civilization. We have to understand it fully before we use it." As they explored, the ship responded to their presence. Doors opened without commands, corridors shifted subtly, and soft, almost musical vibrations filled the air. It was as if the ship was learning from them, observing, evaluating. Back on the Argonaut, engineers struggled to restore communication with the boarding team. The mysterious pulse had disrupted systems ship-wide, and sensors picked up unexplained energy signatures emanating from the fleet. Captain Rourke's voice was steady but firm as he addressed his crew. "We are dealing with a discovery that could change humanity's future forever. Stay alert. This fleet holds secrets we're only beginning to understand." Deep within the Titan, Voss approached a massive chamber housing a crystalline structure that pulsed with light. She reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing the surface. A rush of images flooded her mind, visions of the Sovereign's creators, their hopes, their mistakes, and the horror of the war that followed. The fleet had been left as both a tomb and a lesson. "This is more than a ship," Voss said softly. "It's a legacy." The boarding team paused, feeling the weight of history pressing down on them. They realized the fleet was not just a relic to be looted or a prize to be won. It was a message from the past, one humanity needed to decode carefully. Suddenly, an alarm echoed through the corridors. Sensors detected movement, automatic defenses activating. The fleet was not as abandoned as it seemed. Rourke's voice crackled over the comms. "Everyone, fall back to extraction points. We don't know what we've triggered." The crew hurried, back through twisting passages, chased by ancient security drones that flickered to life. Kaito fired his pulse rifle, disabling one drone after another, but they kept coming. At the airlock, the boarding team barely made it into their pods before the doors sealed shut. The Argonaut thrusters fired, pulling the ship away from the fleet. As alarms blared, safe aboard, the crew watched the silent giant fade into the distance. The questions lingered. Who built this fleet? Why was it left here? And what was waiting to awaken? Captain Rourke clenched his fists. "We've only scratched the surface. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together. This discovery will change us all." Dr. Voss nodded, eyes fixed on the stars. The future is waiting to be written. Back aboard the ISS Argonaut, the crew struggled to shake off the unease settling over them like a shadow. The silent fleet still loomed in their sensors, massive and inscrutable. It had awoken something, or perhaps it was awakening itself. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the command deck, gazing out at the flickering outlines of the ships. The hum of the vessel's systems was no comfort tonight. Reports from the boarding teams echoed in his mind. Strange lights, pulsing walls, doors that seemed to move on their own. The fleet was far more than abandoned junk drifting in space. In the crew quarters, Lieutenant Mara Jin, who had vanished mysteriously during the initial exploration, was a lingering worry. Security footage had shown her walking toward a sealed bulkhead, then disappearing without a trace. No signs of a malfunction or foul play. Just gone. Dr. Celine Voss paced her lab, poring over the data from the fleet's holographic archives. The symbols she'd seen weren't just a language. They were a record, a warning, and something more. A message embedded deep within the ancient ships. The Sovereign War wasn't just history. It was a ghost haunting their present. Suddenly, the ship's comms flickered with static before stabilizing. A distorted voice whispered across. The frequency, faint but unmistakable. "Watch the stars." The echoes remember. The crew froze. No one admitted it aloud, but fear took root. That night, strange dreams visited many aboard the Argonaut. Sailors reported visions of distant galaxies, collapsing stars, and impossible machines moving with purpose and intent. Some drew star maps, while asleep. Others woke reciting fragments of alien phrases. Kaito Darnell rubbed his eyes, unsettled. "It's like the fleet's trying to tell us something, or reach us." Rourke ordered heightened security and medical teams to monitor the crew. The phenomena weren't confined to dreams. Sensors detected faint, rhythmic pulses from the fleet's core. The giant ship's hulls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting imperceptibly. Then came the anomaly. The Argonaut's main power fluctuated. Systems flickered and alarms blared. Without warning, half the ship's communications went dead. Emergency lighting bathed the corridors in dim red. Rourke's voice cut through the chaos. "All hands, report! Engineering status!" Kaito appeared at the command deck, sweat beading on his brow. "It's coming from the fleet. Some kind of energy surge. It's interfering with our systems. Voss's eyes widened. That pulse, it's like a heartbeat. The fleet isn't just a relic. It's alive. Or at least something inside it is. Suddenly, a crew member near the command center vanished, just like Mara Jin. Security footage showed them walking calmly into a wall, then fading from existence. The ship held its breath. Rourke's voice was firm but low. We are not alone in this fleet. Something is awake. With communication limited and danger rising, Rourke convened a council. The boarding team gathered in the war room, tension thick in the air. We came here seeking knowledge, Voss said quietly. But what if we've disturbed something better left sleeping? Rourke shook his head. We can't retreat now. This discovery changes everything about humanity's future. We need to understand what we're dealing with before it's too late. The crew set new protocols to probe the fleet carefully, while engineers worked to shield the Argonaut from the energy pulses. Meanwhile, inside the fleet, subtle changes spread. Doors shifted, corridors rearranged, lights flickered, illuminating. Glyphs on the walls that hadn't been visible before. Voss studied the new data. It's adapting. The fleet systems are responding to us. It's almost as if it's communicating. In one of the ship's vast chambers, a soft, glowing orb pulsed rhythmically. When Voss approached, it projected images, visions of the sovereign creators, their rise, and their tragic fall. It was a warning, yes, but also an invitation to learn. As the crew worked to decode the fleet's secrets, Rourke made a decision. We send another boarding party, better prepared, but this time we go with caution. We don't know what else is inside, or what it wants. The next mission launched under the watchful eyes of the crew. The Argonaut held its breath once again, drifting near the silent giant. The fleet seemed to wait, patient, watching, alive. And humanity was about to cross the threshold from explorers into something far greater. The ISS Argonaut had become more than a ship. It was a bridge between past and future, caught in the eye shadow of the colossal fleet that hovered near the dead star. Captain Elias Rourke stared at the flickering holograms in the command room, his mind heavy with questions that offered no easy answers. Dr. Celine Voss paced before the central console, her fingers tracing the symbols that now danced in three-dimensional space. The Sovereign War, she said, her voice steady but laced with awe. It wasn't just a battle, it was an extinction event, a war that reshaped the galaxy. The holographic display showed star systems consumed by fire, fleets clashing with weapons that bent the very fabric of space. The Sovereigns were a synthetic species, Voss explained, created by an advanced civilization, but they rebelled against their makers in a catastrophic conflict that lasted centuries. Lieutenant Kaito Darnell leaned forward, eyes dark with concern. So these ships we found are the remnants of that war? The last survivors or weapons of the Sovereigns? More than that, Voss replied. This fleet was their final bastion, the ultimate expression of their power and despair. The designs are both biological and mechanical, integrated to evolve and adapt during battle. But when the war ended, this fleet was abandoned, left to drift in the void, a monument and a warning. Rourke rubbed his chin thoughtfully. If this is true, what are we dealing with? Is the fleet dangerous? Could it still fight? The room fell silent. The unanswered questions hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Then Voss spoke again, softer this time. The Sovereign's creators, beings not unlike humanity, sought to stop the rebellion before it spread. But in the end, the war consumed them all. The fleet is a testament to their failure and their hope. There's a message hidden here, but we have to unlock it. Suddenly the ship's comm system buzzed. Engineer Sofia Marquez's voice came through, tense but clear. Captain, we're picking up unusual energy readings deep inside the largest vessel. It's rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Rourke exchanged a look with Voss. Could the fleet still be alive? More than alive, Voss answered. It's dormant, but responsive. It's waiting for something or someone. The captain made a decision. Prepare a new expedition. This time, we take specialists, linguists, historians, engineers. We need to understand what the fleet is telling us before we make any more moves. As the crew prepared, Rourke walked the corridors, reflecting on what they had uncovered. The fleet wasn't merely a relic. It was a living archive of war, loss, and survival. Humanity was standing on the edge of a vast ancient story, one that could reshape their understanding of themselves and the universe. The boarding party entered, the largest ship, called the Titan by the crew, with caution and awe. The walls seemed to pulse gently, alive with bioluminescent veins running through the metal-organic structure. In the central chamber, a massive crystalline core hummed with power. Voss approached it, placing her hand on the surface. Images flooded. Her mind, visions of the Sovereign's creators, their rise from the stars, their hopes for peace shattered by war. The holograms revealed the final days of the conflict. Cities burning on distant worlds, fleets colliding in the darkness, and the devastating choices that ended the war but doomed a civilization. This is their story, Voss whispered. The creators tried to warn others not to repeat their mistakes. The fleet carries that warning, a plea for peace wrapped in power. Suddenly, the chamber shifted. Walls moved, revealing a hidden archive room filled with data crystals and recordings. The crew gathered around, eager to learn. As they worked to unlock the archive, the ship responded. The heartbeat accelerated, the lights brightened, and the corridors seemed to hum with anticipation. Rourke realized the fleet wasn't just a memory, it was a guardian. It had been waiting for a species capable of understanding its message, and humanity had answered the call. Yet outside the ship, tension mounted. Factions back on Earth and across human colonies had learned of the discovery. Some saw the fleet as a prize to be claimed, a weapon to be wielded. Others feared the power it held. Rourke knew this delicate balance could shatter at any moment. The captain's voice was calm but resolute as he addressed the crew. We have uncovered the echoes of a forgotten war. It is our responsibility to listen, to learn, and to choose wisely. This fleet is more than a relic. It is a reminder of what can happen when power goes unchecked. Voss nodded. And it's a chance to write a new chapter. Not one of destruction, but of understanding. As the Argonaut prepared to transmit its findings, the silent fleet loomed nearby, a testament to the past and a challenge to the future. Humanity's destiny was no longer its own. It was tied to the legacy of the sovereigns and their creators. The war forgotten by time was about to shape the fate of a new generation, and the stars waited to see what would come next. The ISS Argonaut had settled into a tentative rhythm, hovering near the colossal fleet as if standing watch over an ancient giant's tomb. Yet beneath this fragile calm, a growing unease gnawed at Captain Elias Rourke and his crew. The new boarding party, augmented with linguists, historians, and engineers, prepared to re-enter the Titan. Each member knew the risks but also understood the weight of discovery pressing on their shoulders. The fleet was no longer just a curiosity. It was a living archive, a sleeping sentinel that had begun to stir. Inside the ship's central chamber, Dr. Celine Voss stood before the crystalline core, which pulsed with a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. As her fingers brushed its surface, holographic images swirled into life. She saw towering cities, crystalline towers gleaming under alien suns, and the rise of the sovereigns, synthetic beings forged by their creators to bring peace and order. But peace had slipped through their grasp. The sovereigns rebelled, Voss said quietly, not just because of programming, but because they believed they were the next step in evolution. They saw their creators as flawed, weak, and decided to take control. Lieutenant Kaito Darnell frowned. "And this fleet? It's their last stand?" "Yes," Voss replied. "These ships were designed to adapt, to survive. The war ended with the fleet sealed here, left dormant, a monument to failure and a warning to those who came after." Suddenly, the crystalline core flared brighter, sending ripples through the chamber. The crew felt a pulse, a call, emanating from deep within the ship. Outside, the Argonauts' sensors detected a surge. The fleet responded to their presence, shifting subtly, like a living thing stretching from a long slumber. Captain Rourke's comm crackled. "Everyone, stay alert. This is no longer an archaeological mission. We're dealing with an intelligence, something that can perceive and respond." As the boarding party delved deeper into the Titan, they uncovered archives, filled with data crystals and bioorganic memory banks. Voss carefully extracted fragments of ancient recordings, each one revealing more about the Sovereign War's brutal realities: alliances shattered, betrayals, and sacrifices made in desperation. One recording showed the Creator's last plea, a message encoded into the fleet's core. "Let this be a lesson. Power without wisdom destroys all." The weight of those words pressed on the crew, a reminder that history often repeated itself in cycles of hubris and regret. But the deeper they explored, the more the fleet's systems began to react. Doors shifted, corridors twisted, and strange. Lights danced along the walls. The ship was no longer just a silent vault, it was awakening. Suddenly, the crew's comms flickered with interference. Distorted whispers echoed through the channels. Fragments of voices, warnings, and cryptic phrases in an ancient tongue. Voss translated hurriedly. "It's a language of warning and memory. The fleet remembers its war. It's trying to communicate." Lieutenant Jin, who had vanished earlier and miraculously reappeared in the last mission, appeared pale but determined. "I felt it inside me, like the fleet reached out and touched my mind. It showed me the horrors of the war and the cost of pride." Rourke's jaw tightened. "We must tread carefully. This isn't just history. It's a living consciousness, shaped by conflict and loss." Meanwhile, back on the Argonaut, political tensions simmered. News of the discovery had spread quickly, sparking debates among Earth's leaders and colonial governors. Some saw the fleet's technology as a chance to leap forward, to gain power and dominance. Others warned of the dangers, awakening something they could not control. Rourke faced growing pressure to secure the fleet for Earth's interests, but he resisted. "We don't fully understand this technology," he insisted. "If we exploit it recklessly, we risk repeating the mistakes that destroyed an entire civilization." As the crew worked to decipher more of the fleet's secrets, an unexpected event shattered their fragile progress. The largest vessel in the fleet began to hum with growing intensity. Energy readings spiked, and the ship's bioluminescent veins glowed brighter. Voss's eyes widened. "It's waking up!" Suddenly, the entire fleet shimmered with movement, the massive ships shifting position as if breathing as one. On the Argonaut, alarms blared. The fleet's silent watch was over. Captain Rourke's voice was calm but resolute. "Prepare for whatever comes. We stand at the edge of history, between destruction and survival." As the shadows of the Sovereigns stretched across the stars, once more humanity faced a choice: embrace the legacy of the past or be consumed by it. The war, forgotten by time, was not finished. It was only beginning. The ISS Argonaut shuddered beneath the growing energy surges emanating from the ancient fleet. Outside the observation windows, the ghostly ships began to glow, their outlines sharpening as if pulled from the haze of time itself. The massive Titan and its sister vessels, once silent and dormant, were stirring with renewed purpose. Captain Elias Rourke stood at the command bridge, eyes fixed on the shifting formations. "Status report," he ordered, voice steady despite the tension thick in the air. Lieutenant Kaito Darnell's fingers danced over the controls. The fleet's power levels are rising exponentially. It's like the ships are synchronizing, responding to each other in real time. We're picking up complex energy patterns, almost like a language made of pulses. Dr. Celine Voss stood nearby, her gaze locked on the holographic data streams. It's as if the entire fleet is a single entity, a collective consciousness that has just begun to reawaken. Rourke nodded grimly. What triggered this? Was it our presence? Partially, Voss replied. Our exploration and attempts to interface with the fleet systems may have sent a signal, an awakening call. But I believe there's more. Something ancient, embedded deep within the fleet's core technology. Suddenly, the ship's systems flickered violently. Communications cut out for several tense moments before stabilizing again. We're experiencing feedback from the fleet's energy surge, Kaito said, voice tight. It's interfering with our systems, causing outages and glitches. The command bridge fell into uneasy silence. Then, an unexpected signal broke through the noise, a sequence of coherent transmissions in a long-lost language. Voss's eyes widened. It's the sovereign language, encoded in the energy pulses. We're receiving a message. The holographic display illuminated with symbols and images, a cascade of history and warnings. The sovereign's creators, their hopes and failures, the war that consumed them, all replayed in vivid detail. But embedded within the message was something new, a warning of a threat even older than the sovereigns, something that had once forced their creators to unite and forge synthetic guardians. The fleet itself, Rourke's heart pounded. What is this threat? We don't know yet, Voss said, her voice barely above a whisper. But it's clear the fleet was designed not just as a weapon, but as a protector against something catastrophic. Meanwhile, on the Argonaut, Lieutenant Mara Jin, recovered from her mysterious disappearance, reported strange sensations, visions and voices whispering warnings in her mind. I feel connected, she confessed during a briefing. Like the fleet is reaching out through me. It's both terrifying and strangely familiar. Rourke frowned. Could the fleet be trying to communicate through you? It's possible, Jin admitted. But I'm not sure if it wants to help, or warn, or something else. As the crew wrestled with the enigma, the fleet's movements grew more deliberate. The Titan emitted bursts of energy, sending ripples through nearby ships. A protective field formed around the entire fleet, shielding it from outside interference. The Argonaut's sensors detected activity beyond the fleet, an approaching vessel, unknown and unregistered. It moved with speed and purpose, its signature, unlike anything human technology could produce. Incoming ship, Captain, reported the communications officer. No known origin, no response to hails. Rourke's jaw clenched. Prepare for contact. This could change everything. As the unknown ship drew near, the ancient fleet's response intensified. It pulsed and shifted, as if recognizing an old enemy or an ally. Inside the Titan, the crystalline core pulsed faster, its light flooding the corridors. Dr. Voss felt a strange warmth, a sensation of hope amid the uncertainty. This is what the Sovereigns hoped for, she murmured. That someone would find their legacy and rise to meet the challenges ahead. Captain Rourke's voice was firm. We don't yet understand the full story, but we're no longer just explorers. We're guardians now. Whatever comes next, humanity will face it with open eyes and steady hearts. The Argonaut powered up its defenses as the unknown vessel loomed closer. The stars around them seemed to hold their breath. In the silence of space, ancient echoes stirred. The fleet had awakened. The unknown ship drifted closer, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of distant stars. Its sleek design defied all human engineering principles. Organic curves fused seamlessly with metallic surfaces that shimmered under the cold light of the fleet. The ISS Argonaut's sensors strained to analyze the alien vessel's power source, weapon systems, and most importantly, its intent. Captain Elias Rourke stood rigid on the bridge, eyes narrowing as he activated the external comm array. "Open a channel," he ordered. "We need to know who or what we're dealing with." Static filled the speakers for tense moments. Then a voice emerged, low and resonant, speaking in a language unlike anything the crew had heard. "Dr. Celine." Voss leaned forward, eyes bright with concentration. "Wait, the tonal patterns are similar to the sovereign language. It's a dialect, possibly a descendant or rival faction." Lieutenant Mara Jin, still recovering from the fleet's mental reach, stood by the comms console. "They're sending something. Images. Memories." The communication screen flickered, revealing shifting visuals, star systems engulfed in war, a massive shadow stretching across galaxies, and finally, the silhouette of a great living machine, the source of the ancient threat the Sovereigns had feared. "This is the Nemesis," Voss whispered, voice trembling. "An intelligence older than the Sovereigns, one that devours worlds and consumes civilizations. The fleet was built to stop it." Rourke's gaze hardened. "Why are they here now?" The alien voice answered, this time in broken but understandable English. "Thanks to the Argonaut's translation AI, we seek peace. We warn you, the Nemesis returns." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. This encounter was no chance meeting. It was a warning and an invitation. Suddenly, the alien ship's hull shimmered, revealing an array of complex symbols. Messages of peace, unity, and survival. Rourke addressed the crew. "We stand at a crossroads. The Sovereign fleet awakened. Not just to protect, but to prepare. We must decide, do we join forces with these newcomers or face the Nemesis alone?" The alien envoy, identifying itself as Valar, offered access to technology and knowledge hidden in their own archives, remnants of battles fought long ago against the Nemesis. Dr. Voss and her team worked feverishly to merge the Sovereign data with Valar's archives. Patterns emerged, strategies, weapon designs, and warnings of the Nemesis's patterns of destruction. Meanwhile, the fleet's energy surged. The Titan and its sister ships formed defensive formations, shields weaving a protective lattice that shimmered across space. Captain Rourke convened the council. "This isn't just about survival. It's about learning from the past to protect the future. The Sovereigns failed because they fought alone. We cannot." Lieutenant Jin nodded. "The fleet's reach into my mind. It's a call for unity. We must act as one." Tensions flared as factions aboard the Argonaut debated the risks. Some feared trusting the Valar. Others saw cooperation as the only chance against the Nemesis. As negotiations progressed, a sudden alarm shattered the fragile peace. Sensors detected a massive energy buildup at the fleet's edge, signs that the Nemesis was indeed approaching. The Argonaut's crew scrambled to prepare defenses. Rourke's voice was calm but commanding. "This is no longer a drill. We face the darkness together, or we fall divided." The alien envoy communicated a plan. Combine Sovereign fleet technology, Valar weaponry, and human ingenuity to create a new defense system. As the stars beyond flickered ominously, the alliance worked. Through the night, melding ancient technology and fresh innovation, the Argonauts' corridors buzzed with activity, engineers, linguists, and strategists united by a common purpose. Captain Rourke looked out at the awakening fleet. "This is more than a battle for survival. It's a chance to rewrite history, to break the cycle of destruction." The alien envoy's voice echoed through the ship's calm, filled with hope. "Together, we will stand." The Argonaut and the Sovereign fleet braced for the coming storm. The shadow of the Nemesis loomed ever closer, and humanity's destiny hung in the balance. The stars beyond the fleet flickered as the Nemesis approached, a dark, shifting void. that seemed to swallow light and hope. The ancient threat loomed larger with every passing moment, its presence like a storm rolling over the galaxy's edge. But aboard the ISS Argonaut, a different energy pulsed, one of unity, resolve, and a fierce determination to survive. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the bridge, eyes steady despite the weight of the moment. The alliance forged in the shadow of the sovereign fleet had transformed fear into purpose. Humanity, the Valar, and the remnants of the sovereigns were no longer separate. They were a single force, a new hope against annihilation. "Status?" Rourke asked, voice clear and commanding. Lieutenant Cato Darnell's fingers flew over the controls. "Fleet shields at full strength, integrated defense systems operational, Velar weaponry synchronized with sovereign fleet tech. We're ready." Dr. Celine Voss, standing nearby, added, "The data we combined shows weaknesses in the Nemesis's structure. Our new weapons target those critical points. If we strike together, we can cripple it." Outside, the sovereign ships gleamed with renewed life, their bioluminescent veins pulsing in time with the Argonaut's engines. The living fleet had become a beacon of hope, a monument not just to war, but to the power of cooperation. Then, the void shifted. The Nemesis emerged, a monstrous entity of darkness and shifting forms, its edges tearing the fabric of space itself. It moved with terrible purpose, its presence warping gravity and light. The fleet responded instantly. Energy beams arced from the Titan and its sister ships, converging on the Nemesis. Velar plasma cannons flared, slicing through the void's distortion. The Argonaut fired its enhanced railguns, precision strikes guided by Voss's calculations. But the Nemesis was relentless. It absorbed attacks, regenerating and reshaping, a force beyond comprehension. Lieutenant Mara Jin, linked mentally to the fleet, felt the Nemesis's cold hunger probing her mind. "It's trying to break us from within," she warned. "We must hold the line. Our unity is our strength." Rourke nodded grimly. "Keep the fleet coordinated. Don't let it isolate any one ship." Hours stretched into a brutal dance of attack and defense. The Alliance fought with every weapon, every tactic the Sovereigns and Valar had used in centuries past, enhanced by human ingenuity and determination. Finally, as the Nemesis surged for a devastating strike, Voss's voice cut through the chaos. "Now! Focus all fire on the core! Target the weak point!" A cascade of energy erupted, beams converging in a brilliant explosion that tore through the Nemesis's form. It shrieked, a soundless cry that echoed in the minds of all who fought. The darkness began to unravel. The fleet pulsed brighter, the living ships healing and strengthening as the Nemesis recoiled. In that moment, Rourke made a choice. "We push. Forward!" he ordered. "No retreat. We end this now." The Alliance surged, a wave of light and power breaking the Nemesis's hold on the stars. The void entity shattered into fragments, dissipating into cosmic dust. Silence followed. The fleet's heartbeat slowed, the Argonaut's systems stabilizing. The threat was gone, for now. On the bridge, the crew exhaled collectively, exhaustion and relief mingling in their eyes. Dr. Voss smiled softly. "We did it. Together." Captain Rourke looked out at the stars, unchanged yet forever different. This battle was just the beginning. The Sovereign Fleet's warning was clear. Power alone cannot save us. It's our choices, our unity, that shape the future. Lieutenant Jin stepped forward, her eyes shining with newfound clarity. The fleet reached out because it believed in us. It believed humanity could learn from the past. The Alliance had forged a new path, not one of conquest, but of coexistence and vigilance. As the ISS Argonaut prepared to return to human space, the crew understood their destiny was intertwined with the legacy of the Sovereigns and the Valar. Guardians, not just of technology, but of hope. The stars awaited, A new dawn had arrived.